Dear parents, a very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to accord you all a very hearty welcome to today's session on the National Education Policy 2020. I hope you all are doing good and are taking very good care of yourselves and your families. And it's indeed such a pleasure to be connecting with all of you over today's session. But before we actually dive into the session, I would just like to share a few words with you. Needless to say, the year 2020 has been extremely daunting for everyone. And children and teachers have all had their own share of challenges. At the same time, I would like to add that the challenges we've confronted brought with them opportunities to learn, to discover, to imbibe a growth mindset, and most of all, to cultivate the power of resilience, which is one of the, I think, the best developmental outcomes which we can give our children. And as they say, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. I think the Mindtree team has pulled it off fairly well. Looking at the feedback that we get from the parent community, I take this opportunity to acknowledge the humongous support and cooperation that you've always extended, and that's what keeps us going. Well, coming to today's agenda, I would like to quote the legendary Mark Twain when he said, "I have never let my schooling interfere with my education." Now, this was a blow to the conventional education system of his time. Even today, looking at the dubious value system and the lopsided development of personalities, the relevance of the education system comes into critical consideration. We tend to ask ourselves, what is education? What is the real meaning of education? Why are we doing what we're doing? Are changes necessary? Are classrooms stifling creativity? Is our education a tool for social transformation? Now, here, I don't mean to condemn the present systems in any way. It's just that we need to adopt a more questioning and skeptical stance towards the educational customs that we've inherited. In order to bring home the enormity of the challenge, I'll share one of my favorite analogies with all of you. Let's consider something as basic as eating 3 meals a day. Now, is there any biological imperative dictating that we should eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? We can have 2 meals a day, we can have 4, 5, or 6 meals a day. You know, some Buddhist monks, they eat only 1 meal a day. As with our eating habits, so with our teaching habits. Difficult, but not impossible. What is required is a fresh perspective of looking at things. Now, let's desist from being too cynical about our systems. In fact, some schools are doing a commendable job, and remarkable innovations are being introduced in the educational domain from time to time. And these are coming right from the governments, the national school boards, as well as individual institutions. Educationists are concerned. Well, the National Education Policy 2020 is being hailed as a welcome step and is sure to transform the learning landscape of our country. The Swiss social reformer Pestalozzi is often remembered for emphasizing that education should develop the powers of the head, the heart, and the hands. And I truly believe with all my heart and not just the head that the essence of NEP 2020 is very much in consonance with not only Pestalozzi's philosophy, but also that of towering figures like Plato, Confucius, John Dewey, Howard Gardner, Rabindranath Tagore, and the like. The NEP 2020 is the first education policy to be introduced in India in the 21st century, the last having been implemented in 1986, and that was 34 years ago. It seeks to introduce and implement dynamic changes across all levels of education. And today I'm going to disseminate the various perspectives of the NEP 2020. But before we proceed further, I would like to inform you that right now, what we have with us is the framework or the design of the National Education Policy 2020. It has been approved by the government, but the official announcement regarding its enforcement is still awaited. I'll soon be sharing my presentation with you, but before that, I would like to say something. At the end of the day, what do we want for our children? What are our aspirations for them? I think we want them to be happy, we want them to be joyful, and we want them to grow up into good human beings. And this policy, NEP 2020, is all about nurturing happy and good children who are capable of rational thought and action, possessing empathy and compassion, courage and resilience. This policy is all about instilling the spirit of service, scientific temper, and creative imagination, as also critical thinking, along with sound ethics and values, while at the same time preparing them for gainful and fulfilling employment. So it aims at achieving futuristic education such that the students can design their own learning trajectories as per their interests and get prepped up for the real world beyond school. Just give me a moment as I will now kickstart the presentation on NEP 2020. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. I would start by mentioning one of the distinguishing features of this policy. You know, all the policies that have come before this, they have talked about providing universal access to education. Whereas the NEP 2020 talks about providing good quality education, universal access to good quality education. And I think that is one of the distinctive features of this policy. Let us have a cursory look at the agenda of today. We look at the vision of NEP 2020, the key principles on which this framework has been built, the transformation in the curricular and pedagogical structure, the shift to competency-based teaching, learning, and assessment, the need for a structured early childhood care and education program, the highlights of the pedagogical structure, the focus on 21st century skills in teaching, learning, and assessment, transforming assessments and tracking student progress across school years, standard setting and accreditation for school education. Coming to the vision of the policy, the NEP 2020 envisages an education system which is deeply rooted in Indian ethos, provides high quality education to the students, and gives a trust to the curriculum and the pedagogy such that the students develop a sense of respect and pride for their country and their duties as responsible Indian and global citizens. In a nutshell, the policy aims at producing productive and contributing citizens who can contribute to building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged in our constitution. I believe that this vision is very much in consonance with the educational philosophies of Plato and Confucius. I think they spelled out powerful educational insights. According to them, the objective of education, the ultimate objective of education is not just the development of the individual, but also societal transformation. Let's look at the key principles of the NEP 2020. I will start with the flexibility. I think it's the most distinguishing feature of this policy. Students will have a wide choice of subjects to choose from. They can design their own learning paths depending on their interests and talents. There will be no silos between different streams. They can choose subjects across the streams like arts, humanities, sciences, languages, physical education, vocational subjects, and so on and so forth. Talking about local context, I think there will be a whole lot of focus on local context in the implementation, local context and flavor, I should say, in the implementation of the NEP 2020. And I think India is a country which is endowed with a rich cultural heritage, artistic treasures, and a wealth of languages. And once the children are exposed to this diversity, they will learn how to preserve, how to respect this diversity, how to preserve its richness for the enrichment of posterity. You know, there are initiatives of the CBSE like art integrated education, vocational subjects. These are all initiatives in this direction. And I see this in congruence with through music, through dance, through poetry, through literature, through drama, and we are talking about these things in the NEP 2020. Equity and inclusion. Equity and inclusion is going to be the cornerstone of all educational decisions. I'll be taking up this in a little more detail in one of the forthcoming slides. Community participation. NEP 2020 encourages student participation in community outreach and philanthropic activities, the use of technology. I think there's no better example of integrating technology into education better than this time of the pandemic, when it has actually been our savior. You know, during this time, I think technology was the only silver lining that we had with us. And in times to come, I think we will need to harness the power of technology even more. Understanding. There will be a whole lot of emphasis on the understanding of core concepts rather than rote learning and learning for exams. Emphasis will be laid on real life application of the concepts, development of higher order thinking skills, integrated learning, practical skills, and so on. The NEP 2020 recognizes the fact that each individual is different. Each individual has his or her own unique capabilities, and we must respect these differences. It talks about recognizing, identifying, and fostering these unique capabilities in children. Let's talk about critical thinking and creativity. You know, these are 21st century skills which are crucial for success in the real life scenario. And I would be happy to talk about the fact that we at Mindtree take a lot of initiatives to promote critical thinking in the children. For instance, in our question paper design, you know, the question paper does not just assess memorizing, it tests the critical thinking skills of the children. Continuous review. Now, educational experts, they are going to review the educational processes of the schools from time to time. It's not that this is not happening at present. It's just that the process is going to be more frequent from now on. And the focus will be on the quality of education, quality of assessment. The NEP 2020 talks about restructuring the curricular and pedagogical structure at national level. The present 10+2 curricular structure will soon be replaced by the 5+3+3+4 design. Let's have a look at the figures over here. Let's look at the gray figure, which represents the current 10+2 structure. We can see that formal education of a child in this curricular structure begins at the age of 6. That means when a child enters grade 1, you can see a gray block at the bottom. This is the gray area. You know, we say that about 85% of the child's brain develops prior to the age of 6. But the irony remains, in spite of this, there is no such structured framework of formal schooling for the age group 3 to 6. And the NEP talks about bringing in an excellent curricular framework for this age group, because till this time, this age group is being neglected through and through. Here, I would like to mention that we at Mindtree need not worry about this, because we have a very, very structured, child-friendly, and scientifically designed curriculum for our kindergartners. So I think it's all in place. Now, coming to the new pedagogical and curricular structure, we'll start from the bottom. The first stage is the foundational stage, catering to the age group 3 to 8 years. That is 3 years of preschool and 2 years of grades 1 and 2. 3 years of preschool would be for ages 3 to 6, and grades 1 and 2 for ages 6 to 8. The salient features of these stages I'll take up in my next slide. Then we have the preparatory stage, catering to the age group 8 to 11 years, that is grades 3 to 5. Then we come to the middle stage, catering to the age group 11 to 14 years, that is grades 6 to 8. Finally, we come to the secondary stage for ages 14 to 18, that is grades 9 to 12. So broadly, this will be the design which will guide school education from here on. Parents, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, and we will take up those questions, the relevant questions, at the end of the session. Now, the salient features of these stages in school. The foundational stage, that is for the age group 3 to 8 years, the curriculum and the pedagogy will be more play-based, activity-based, discovery-based, because the idea is to make learning a joyful experience for these little ones. Now, there's one thing that I want to talk about here. We talked about that fact that 85% of the brain development of a child occurs prior to the age of 6. Let's see how the brain actually works. It works due to the formation of brain connections or neural connections between the brain cells or the neurons. And these brain connections are called synapses. Now, during early childhood, these synapses are formed at a phenomenal rate. 1 million synapses are formed per second, which is far more than at any other time in life. Now, we need to tap this age group for providing them enriching experiences at this stage, because these synapses, they're actually formed as a result of the experiences that a child gains, be it with teachers, be it with parents, be it by engaging themselves in activities, interactions with peers, games, puzzles, music, drama, rhymes, and the like. Focus would also be laid on developing social capacities like good behavior, courtesy, ethics, public hygiene, cleanliness, and so on, and life skills such as teamwork and cooperation. At the preparatory stage, there will be a gradual transition from play-based learning to more formal classroom learning. I think live textbooks will be introduced at this stage, so as to lay the foundation for the subjects such as art, languages, science, mathematics, and so on. And the emphasis will be on the foundational skills such as reading, writing, and speaking. At the curricular methodology, more of discussion method, experiential learning, competency-based education, and so on. Now, at the secondary stage, the emphasis will be on greater depth, greater critical thinking, and there will be a wide choice of subjects for the students. I think this is the highlight of this policy. Children will have a whole lot of flexibility to choose their subjects. So, in case they want to choose maybe business studies, they can choose it along with chemistry, along with painting. Now, this is a very, very important slide, which I might spend a little more time on this. The shift to competency-based teaching, learning, and assessment. Let's look at the two pictures at the bottom. The first one indicates reduction in the curriculum to the core essentials to minimize rote learning. That means there'll be reduction in the curriculum. There will be a reduction in the cognitive load for the child so as to enable the child to pursue other interests, be it sports, art, languages, or vocational subjects or whatever. Sports integrated and art integrated learning will be promoted for holistic development. Creative thinking and critical thinking will be aligned to the 21st century in classrooms. Now, these are 21st century skills which are critical for success beyond school, beyond classroom, in the real life scenario. Now, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking does not mean criticizing. It means the ability to interpret, to analyze, to evaluate a phenomenon, a situation, or a piece of information in a very, very objective fashion, and then draw logical conclusions based on them. I'll give you an example of critical pedagogy. If the answer is, I think I read this in the NCF 2005. If the answer is, it was red, what can be the possible questions? What was the color of the rose or the velvet cake or the strawberry? Why did you put the letter in that box? Why did she stop suddenly at the traffic light? So the answer to all these questions is it was red. So this is critical pedagogy. Shifting traditional assessments to competency focused. Now, before I come to assessments, I would just take some time for competency-based education. Now, competency-based education, let's talk about the fact what is a competency. Now, competency is a set of skills or abilities which a child needs, or anybody for that matter, needs to perform a particular task in a real life scenario. It could be as simple as going to the grocery store to buy grocery, or something as complex as flying an airplane. Let's take one of these analogies. If you have to bake a cake, you need to know the list of ingredients, you need to know the proportions in which these ingredients need to be added, you need to know the recipe in a logical sequence, you need to know the baking technique, the temperature at which it has to be baked, the baking time, and so on. So baking is a competency. Similarly, if you need to shop at an e-commerce site, you need to know which is the website you need to visit, or which is the mobile application which you need to download. You need to browse, how you need to browse through the items, put the items in your cart, and how to do the online payment. So these are all examples of competency. Now, coming to competency-based education, it it is an approach, it is a learning outcome based approach wherein the curriculum and the pedagogy are mapped in such a manner so as to achieve the desired learning outcomes or so as to achieve the desired competencies in the children. Now, what is the learning outcome? These learning outcomes have actually been predefined by the NCERT, and all schools need to mandatorily adopt these learning outcomes. I'll give you an example. If I say that by the end of this concept, the child should be able to make a flow chart or a diagrammatic representation of the processes involved in the nitrogen cycle. So this is the learning outcome that the teacher wants to achieve by the end of the concept. Or if I say, by the end of this topic, the child will be able to write an article based on verbal or visual cues using appropriate ideas, language, grammatical accuracy, vocabulary, spelling, punctuation, and so on. Now, there will be a shift in the assessment practices as well. The assessment practices will be aligned towards a more competency-focused approach in the sense that the assessments will not test the memorization skills, rather, they will assess the achievement of the predefined learning outcomes. Track student progress comprehensively and frequently. This we will take up in one of the further slides in a little more detail when we'll talk about the holistic report cards. Design tools and resources. So the boards will be assisting the teachers by providing them the necessary resources. For instance, they are providing a lot of resources on the Diksha platform of CBSE, as well as a lot of support in terms of expert instructors will be required for teaching vocational crafts such as entrepreneurship, agriculture, or pottery, and the like. Let's talk about early childhood care and education. Now, we've already talked about the fact that a program, a structured framework for early childhood care and education is critical in the formative years of a child's development, which is lacking in most of the schools. Now, NCERT is going to prepare an excellent curricular and pedagogical framework for early childhood care and education. Very soon, they will be coming out with it. And this curriculum ideally consists of play-based learning, joyful learning, activity-based learning, discovery-based learning about alphabets, numbers, language, counting, shapes, colors, rhymes, art and craft, painting, drawing, drama, so on and so forth. In order to ensure physical and motor development, cognitive development, socio-emotional development, cultural or artistic development, and the focus will be on the development of foundational literacy and numeracy skills, so that before the child enters class 1, the child is able to read the basic text with comprehension. He has the ability to write. He has the ability to perform basic mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, and also learn basic life skills and values, which we talked about earlier. And it will be ensured that the child achieves these skills um, at least before grade 3. And it will be ensured that all children entering grade 1 are school ready by 2030. One of the missions of the NEP 2020 is the attainment of foundational literacy and numeracy by grade 3, which I just talked about, so I will not delve too much into it any further. Yes, an interim 3-month play-based school preparation module for all grade 1 students will be prepared. There will be a national repository for high quality teaching and learning resources on the Diksha platform of CBSE, and focus will be laid on fostering the reading habit by leveraging the power of libraries. Measures will be taken to curtail dropouts and to ensure universal access to education at all levels. This will be done by making sure that there are trained teachers, there is sufficient infrastructure support, and careful tracking of the students so as to ensure that they are enrolled in schools and they are attending schools. And if at all they have dropped out, they have enough opportunities to re enter schools and continue their education. And both formal and informal modes of education, like open and distance learning, will be facilitated. Some of the highlights of the pedagogical structure. We already talked about competency-based education. Schools will be required to prepare, and they have already been preparing annual pedagogical plans based on competency and outcome-based education. The focus will be on art integrated education, sports integrated education, ICT integrated education, and storytelling based pedagogy. Focus will also be laid on the development of scientific temper as well as human and constitutional values. A very, very distinctive feature, which I've already talked about, is the elimination of boundaries. You know, education is going to have no boundaries, no silos among subjects, no hard separation between curricular and co-curricular subjects, academic and vocational subjects. All will be at the same level. So students will have a wide choice to choose from subjects across the streams like arts, humanities, sciences, vocational subjects, sports, art, academics. Emphasis on digital literacy. Now, our children of today, you know, they are digital natives, and so it becomes imperative that we prepare them for the jobs which are still unknown to us as yet. Subjects like coding and computational thinking will be introduced, and multilingualism will be promoted. This again, I'm going to take up in a further slide. We've already talked about 21st century skills in the classroom like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, collaboration, communication, then life skills like social responsibility. We talk about the fact that our children should be able to contribute to a sustainable society. And I think that's very, very crucial in today's time. Health and fitness is going to be the cornerstone of all skills. It will be as important as science, as important as music, as important as any vocational subject. This slide sounds very, very interesting. And while the NEP talks about keeping the students rooted to the Indian ethos, it also talks about the introduction of contemporary subjects like artificial intelligence, which is all around us these days, data science, holistic health, organic living, design thinking, machine learning, and so on. This organic living actually means living in harmony with nature, and it has particularly caught my attention because it is so very crucial in today's time. I'm reminded of uh, Rabindranath Tagore's philosophy over here, uh, and his very celebrated Gitanjali, which has always enamored me. There's an oft quoted section in the Gitanjali which is known as a poet's school. This is incidentally also our school pledge, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. It actually captures the essence of Tagore's thoughts on education. Tagore actually, if we go deeper, the deeper exposition of the verses, it actually highlights the importance of interconnectedness with the surrounding world, not for globalization, anticipating where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. I hope I'm not digressing, but I just felt like sharing this philosophy with you. And if India has to emerge into a global power, I think it is imperative that we introduce these contemporary subjects. Now, while NEP 2020 talks about the introduction of contemporary subjects, it also lays focus on the introduction of vocational crafts such as carpentry, electric work, metal work, gardening, pottery making, and so on. I as a child, I have always been intrigued by the art of pottery, and it is so nice to hear about it being introduced, such crafts being introduced in our national education policy. I feel there's something so very magical about it. Here I'm reminded of Gandhiji's education policy, which he introduced way back in 1937, which was called the Nai Talim. And here he saw vocational training as the key to India's self reliance. And the three crafts that were introduced at that point of time were spinning, weaving, and agriculture. Now, as per this policy, students of grade 6 to 8 will be doing an year-long course in vocational crafts, and this will not only add a local flavor to their education, it will also develop life skills, and at the same time, I think it will be a whole lot of fun and adventure. However, this does not mean that we are preparing children for any blue collar jobs. It is just to add to their personality and to keep them rooted in the Indian ethos. Focus will also be laid on mathematics and computational thinking. Emphasis will be laid on vocational education, which I've already talked about. Students will be given the knowledge of India, all about its customs, traditionals, the luminaries of India, the critical issues facing India as a country, and the world. The mother tongue of the child may be used as the medium for instruction. However, this is particularly at the primary level. However, it does not mean that we aren't going to teach in English. It only means that the teachers can always fall back on the mother tongue of the child in order to facilitate instruction as and when required. Now, India, I suppose, is blessed with a wealth of languages, and I think they are one of the most beautiful and the most expressive languages in the world. And we need to preserve these languages not only for cultural enrichment, but also for our national integration. Students will be exposed to a lot of languages right from the foundational stage because it has been scientifically proved that children between the age group 2 to 8 years, they can pick up languages very, very fast. They have the power to pick up languages very, very fast. And they will be doing, I suppose, in the grade 6 to 8, they will be doing a fun project called the Languages of India, which I believe is going to be a joyful activity and a wonderful icebreaker for all their lives as they meet people from different parts of India. A national curriculum framework for school education will be formulated and by the NCERT, and all textbooks, they will contain some essential core material which will be the same at the national level, but at the same time there will be some supplementary material as per local context and needs in the different states. We have already talked about transformation in the assessment practices. Assessment practices will be aligned to assess the desired learning outcomes rather than assessing memorization skills. Transforming assessments and tracking student progress across school years. Now, in addition to the board examinations, students will also take school examinations in grades 3, 5, and 8. And the states are going to decide whether these examinations at grades 3, 5, and 8 are going to be school-based, class-based, or how they are going to be conducted, whether they are going to be standardized or not. But they are not going to be board exams, to make it very clear. Now, in order to enhance the teaching learning progress, progress will not be tracked only at the end of grade 10 and 12, but also in other grades, that is throughout the schooling experience. And the results of these examinations, they're going to be kept anonymized, but they will be used for the continuous monitoring and improvement of the schooling system. Report cards are going to be redesigned to assess the holistic development of the children. Now, the concept of 360 degrees holistic report cards actually emanates from the principle of the NEP 2020, which says that the individual capabilities of a child need to be fostered, and also coupled with principles like experiential learning and competency-based education. Let's look at the different attributes of this report card. It will give a pen picture of progress in project-based and inquiry-based learning, as well as the fact that this report card will not only reflect the progress of the child in the cognitive domain, but also in the affective and psychomotor domains. And the tools for assessment will be quizzes, role plays, group work, portfolio, etc. Interactive questionnaires for parents, teachers, and students. Now, students will be assessed not only by the teacher, but also by themselves and by their peers. This is done to bring the learner's voice into the assessment. So the students need to learn two things: how to give feedback to other children, and also how to receive feedback in a constructive manner. And I think this will prepare the students for ethical and value based learning. There will be certain guidelines for the assessment process, and so that, when the systems of assessment, the assessment practices will be shifted, there have to be certain guidelines, and these will be prepared by the NCERT in consultation with the National Assessment Center for School Education. This center will also advise the school boards about the requirements of the 21st century and whether the guidelines are in consonance with the objectives of the NEP 2020. The NEP aims to support and nurture teachers through all phases, be it preparation of the teachers, preparation of good quality teachers, their recruitment, providing resources to the teachers in the classroom, and also their professional development in terms of capacity building. 50 hours of continuous professional development, CPD, will be undertaken by the teachers as per this policy. Teacher eligibility tests will be strengthened, and quality 4-year integrated B.Ed programs will be incorporated. This is again a very important slide which talks about creating an equitable and inclusive education. Now, what is equity? It should not be mistaken with equality. I'll just give you an analogy to make the difference clear. Now, just imagine that you're a group of people who are watching a game and you have to look over a fence in order to see the game. The problem is that the fence is at a height, it is quite high, and all the people need to be provided with some kind of stepping stools so that they can look over the fence. Now, this is equality, providing the same sized stools. But there's a glaring problem with this. The problem is that everyone is not of the same height. And so it is essential that we provide them different sized stools. This is where equity steps in. And this is what equity is all about, so that each person can have a view of the game because he gets a different sized stool. Now, what this actually means is that we need to customize the strategies for different categories of people in order to provide them equal opportunities for education. Now, NEP talks about providing equal opportunities for children with special needs, for socio-economically disadvantaged groups, and also for boys and girls. Let us have a look at this quote. Inclusive, good quality education is a foundation for dynamic and equitable societies. Now, we believe that while an equitable and inclusive education is an essential goal in itself, it is also critical to developing an equitable and inclusive society where each citizen is able to dream, thrive, and contribute. The focus will be on socio-economically disadvantaged groups, which can be categorized under gender identities, socio-cultural identities, geographical identities, disabilities, and socio-economic conditions. And when we talk about equity, separate strategies will be formulated for focused attention for reducing each of the category-wise gaps in school education. Now, a lot of CBSE initiatives have been taken and will be taken in order to promote good quality education. Let's talk about what NEP has to say about standard setting and accreditation for school education. Now, schools will need to comply with certain essential quality standards in order to have good quality education. And these quality standards will be based on some basic parameters like safety, security, infrastructure, number of teachers, financial probity, and sound processes of governance. The states and UTs will set up an independent statewide body called the State Schools Standards Authority. The SCERT, the State Council of Educational Research and Training, to develop the School Quality Assessment and Accreditation Framework. The CBSE has already developed the comprehensive framework, which is called the School Quality Assessment and Assurance, which is a self-assessment tool for schools to review their performance against predefined indicators, which we just talked about. And I think all schools must go ahead in times to come. They must go ahead for this kind of an accreditation in order to ensure and enhance the quality of schooling. Let's have a look at what is being done by the CBSE in the area of assessment and examination. 500 competency-based test items for classes 1 to 5 are being prepared in accordance with the learning outcomes stipulated by NCERT. A lot of work is being done to prepare question banks for competency-based items, higher order thinking skills questions. Paper setters and moderators are being trained. And one thing which I would like to add here, there are already changes in the question paper design of the board exams. We already have 20% of source-based, case-based questions being introduced from this year, and gradually this will go up to 60%. And by 2025, there will be 60% of such critical thinking-based questions. A lot of curricular initiatives are being taken by CBSE, such as art and sports integrated education, preparation of annual pedagogical plans by the principals and the staff members, implementation of experiential learning pedagogies. Just like maths and Hindi have two levels at the moment for the board exams, English and Sanskrit will also be introduced at two levels from 21-22. And a number of vocational courses will be introduced even for classes 6 to 8. Ensuring competency-based education in schools, there is mandatory adoption of learning outcomes by CBSE schools, which we already talked about. I think we talked about all these things. So we move to student enrichment activities, which the CBSE conducts from time to time. The Aryabhatta Ganit Challenge, Heritage Quiz, Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, the CBSE Science Challenge, Science Exhibition, Khelo India, Expression Series, the Reading Challenge. And these are certain expectations from schools. And we've already talked about these things. The focus will be on learning outcomes. There will be stress on the importance of foundational skills of literacy and numeracy. Bring changes in the classroom transactions, which will be aligned with the NEP 2020. And this, I think, is going to be an arduous task, but I'm sure it's going to be challenging, at the same time very, very enriching. Bring changes in the assessment pattern, remove separations between subjects and disciplines, vocational training for students, enable access and retention, self-audit on school quality assurance and accreditation framework, providing enabling resources both to students and teachers, ensuring that the teachers are highly passionate, motivated, qualified, professionally trained, and well-equipped teachers, recruit qualified teachers as per NCTE regulations. So I believe I have been able to at least give you some perspectives, some essential perspectives of the NEP 2020. And I hope it was an enriching session for all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and patient listening. I hope I could at least give you a brief overview of the NEP 2020. And there's one thing that I would like to add here. We need not get overwhelmed by the proposals of the NEP. Everything will be done in a very, very phased manner. Yes, we all should have a growth mindset. We need to be mentally prepared to tweak our educational processes here and there in order to achieve the overarching goals of the policy. I believe that if the policy is implemented in its true spirit, it's bound to bring about dynamic changes in India's learning landscape. Before we conclude, let's express our gratitude to the Almighty for having blessed our Mindtrians with the gift of learning. And we seek your benevolence, O Lord, so that our young Mindtrians may always be enlightened by your guiding light. We are waiting to see our young Mindtrians face to face very soon. Do convey our best wishes to them. And we are really, really missing them like crazy. Dear parents, once again, thank you very much for joining in with us today. It's been a great pleasure. Keep safe and stay healthy. We'll just have a look at some of the questions or comments that have been put forth by some parents. There are certain things on which there is not much clarity, as somebody has asked what will be the criteria for the choice of subjects for classes 6 to 8. Nothing as such has been documented in this policy as of now, but whenever we'll have clarity, surely we'll be communicating to you. Yes, there will be 10th board, as somebody has asked. And thank you for being so very appreciative about the session. I think that's it. We do not have too many questions, but a lot of good comments. So thank you so much for the same. And we are really, really looking forward to have our Mindtrians back with us. Thank you, dear parents. It was a pleasure having you here with us. Thank you and have a great day ahead.